Well, first of all, thank you for your time. I'm Matías from Kinótico. And the very first one, it's a little bit obvious, but I wanted to ask you, how and when did you start to work on the film, on the project?
I first started working on the film, I think very, very informally in 2020. I had like the beginnings of the idea of a script. Actually, it was a short film that I started writing over the pandemic. It was right after I went through this breakup that was very, it was very drawn out, and it was sort of not like a clean break, and it was very, like impacted me very deeply. And so I was writing this short, and I was interested in exploring that space that you're in when you're really heartbroken, and so you're so much more willing to do things that you might not normally do. Like start a relationship online with a stranger, and you're sort of seeking validation in all these different places. So that's how it started. Actually, the first couple pages of that short film end up in the film. And from there, I sort of just started, I continued to dump out little ideas and like scenes and lines of dialogue into a Google Doc, and then in March of 2023, I sat down, and over the course of a month, I just banged out like a really rough draft. Mm-hmm. And then I started to refine it from there and started to attach producers and cast and everything.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because in our outlet we care about the industry part of movies, and I wanted to ask you about the funding process. How was it? How did you find the money for that film?
I mean, it's always, I think at any level it's really a very difficult process. I mean, I'm so grateful to one of my very good friends and producers and who acts in the film, Rachel, because she put us in touch with our first financiers, Neon Heart Productions, and they also did Ship a Baby, and they gave us our first chunk of funding, and from there it became easier, to knock on other doors and say we have like this much and we just need this much more. But it was really cobbled together from a lot of different, it took like an army of people to get to our full budget, and from all different avenues. And in classic sort of like indie filmmaking style, we didn't have our last we got like the final piece of financing the day after we wrapped. Wow. We were at the wrap party, and one of my producers said, "Oh, like this guy's gonna come in for the rest of the money that we need." And so yeah, it was definitely tricky.
Well, you spoke about Rachel. I wanted to ask you about her because do you think that she helped, besides the funding thing, to put eyes on the film? Because when I entered, for example, in Letterboxd, it was the first review by her. She's like very beloved all around the internet. So do you think that she had that impact in putting eyes on the film?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it would be naive of me to think otherwise. I mean, she has been such a champion of the film and of me as a filmmaker from day one. The day one of our friendship, was us sort of like passing our scripts back and forth to each other. We've always been like each other's cheerleaders when it comes to making things. And so I'm so grateful for her support. And yeah, she definitely, opened doors and got eyes on the film. And but yeah, more than that, she's been such an amazing, like I said, like friend and supporter from day one of me as like a filmmaker.
Well, I happen to know a lot of filmmakers, and they always struggle with music rights. And in here we do have Charlie XCX, we have Harmony. How was that? How did you manage to get that?
I have to hold it closer. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Or should I talk louder? If I talk louder, I can hold it. Yeah, okay. Okay. No. I have a problem. Even on set, the sound person will be like, "Speak up." It's Yes, okay, so the music, huge part of every film, and I really have to thank my music supervisor, Ella May Solomon. She was so instrumental in helping us get all these rights, and also one of my producers, Tristan, he helped with, with all the songs, but in particular, he really pushed through. There's a Breeders song in there, and he really that was like the last, the like missing piece where we had acquired all the rights to the songs that we needed, and then we were just waiting on this, like they needed to do the final mix, and we were just waiting on the okay for this one. But I obviously, I wrote a letter, and then Ken Deal had to see the scene and everything. So there were a couple hoops to jump through for some of the songs, but the Charlie song came about obviously because she's, her and Rachel are very good friends, and she's a friend of the film, and she wanted to support. And so I feel so lucky to have gotten the songs that we got. So many. I think there was one song that we had to swap out that was very heartbreaking for me, but it was a Bruce Springsteen song, and there's just
too much.
Yeah, we did not have the budget, but yeah.
I wanted to ask you, so going back to the film, about the look of the film and the mix of where the camera is and how do you move it around, for example, around the room. So how was that? How did you find the right tone in order to mix all those camera angles, for example?
It was a lot of discussions. I had a lot of discussions, obviously, with my DP, Daisy Zhao, who is, I can't say enough good things about her. She's incredible, and I wouldn't have been able to make this movie without her. And she did such an amazing job. And we talked a lot about wanting to be really like in Rebecca, the main character's head, and really staying like with her as she experiences the highs and the lows and everything in between, and really staying close, and like we wanted to create this intimacy. So I think like naturally we thought, obviously, there are a lot of close-ups, you're seeing all of her like micro facial expressions and every sort of like her thought process, and also we were drawing on references like from DPs like Helen Navarre, who does a lot of sort of like roving, intimate, handheld, and we wanted it to, and I think another thing was we wanted there to be freedom of movement with the actors, so that it felt very like naturalistic and not so choreographed. And so we shot on a Sony Venice, and it has like Rialto mode, and so she was able to sort of just like move around the room with me and or whatever actor and be really nimble, and I feel like that also added to the, it obviously also adds to the style.
So as we were talking just before the interview, you write, you direct, you star in the film. How was that on set? How did you cope with all of that?
Well, I'm so grateful to the team that was around me, because I feel like my job, every job that I had was made so much easier by Daisy, the DP, my costume designer, Holly, my producers, Roger and Ani, and my, production designer, Carol. I feel like everyone really, I felt so supported, and obviously so much of it was in prep, and I feel like, we really, we did a lot of prep, and so that when I got on set, I could just step into the role of, Rebecca, and hopefully sort of let everything else fade away. Obviously that didn't happen, obviously there were many things to contend with other than the acting, but I feel like I was able to do it because of these, because of this such a supportive crew, and also I think the majority of our department heads were women, and many were Asian women, younger Asian women, and I feel like that just cultivated an environment of non-judgment and openness, and I feel like when I needed to go to those spaces of like vulnerability, it was a lot easier for me to do that because of the environment that we'd cultivated.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you about two things. First one being the claustrophobic element of the film, and the second one is the loneliness. Do you think that the movie do you agree if we say that Bunnylovr is a movie about being lonely, about feeling lonely?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that was, you know, the root of. I mean, I wanted to explore, like I said, the space that you're in when you're heartbroken, and I think like that at the core of that heartbreak was a like tremendous sense of like an all-consuming sense of loneliness and incurable loneliness, you know. And I think that all of the characters in the film are dealing with this like void and this loneliness that they are trying to fill with other, like with the dad, he's like, you know, sort of a gambler, and he's maybe trying to fill the void that way, and then with the cam client John, he's maybe trying to fill it with these online relationships, as is Rebecca. She's sort of trying to fill the void maybe with like validation from other, or you know, these like different men in her life, and so each of those characters' core, I think there's like a loneliness, and they're just trying to reach out and connect with someone, or whoever they can.
Mm-hmm. About that connections, I wanted to ask you about sex work and how it plays a big role in the film. In the recent times, for example, in independent American cinema, we've seen a lot of sex work and sex workers. Why do you think is that? If we can answer that specific question, and also, do you think that it is because it helps a lot to screenwriters to write about what it means to be free or freedom in its whole spectrum?
Sorry, wait, the second.
Yeah, sorry. Because the first one, why do you think is that there are so many sex workers in modern independent American cinema? Mm-hmm. And also, if you think that it is because it helps to write about freedom, to explore the limitations of what it means to be free in society, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I think to answer your first question, I think that the rise, I think that sex work is just being more, I think sex work has just entered the mainstream in this way that has made it less taboo to like make films or center stories on. I think that I also think, you know, the rise of platforms like OnlyFans, like I think that definitely has also a big impact on sex work in media. I think, you know, it's sort of become almost like more accessible maybe, and like there are so many varying degrees of sex work, especially with the internet, obviously. And in terms of the second part of your question, which was
about freedom, do you think that it helps writers to write about freedom, what it means to be free in modern societies, capitalist societies, for example?
I do think that like sex work is a pretty it's writing about sex work is you sort of you have clearly defined like client and worker dynamics that I think illustrate something about the capitalistic society that we live in now that make it easier to talk about, like you said, like freedom, and also
No, sorry, it's okay. I wanted to ask you about the festival itself. It's all the way from New York, here in Valencia. It's a very little festival, especially focused on young filmmakers. So what does a festival like this one for a film like yours, what does it mean for it?
I mean, it's so amazing to be able to show the film to different audiences. audiences and see the reactions in different places. I just came from Paris where we screened, and like there the reaction is, you know, so, and the questions that are being asked are so different from screening to screening, and I think it just, I mean, any exposure that the film gets is amazing. You know, like I made the film and with the hopes that it would be seen by many people, and so I feel like it's such an honor and a privilege to be here screening the film. Yeah.
The last one. What's next for you? What are you working at right now?
I am working on, I'm in the development stages of a second feature, and I also have, actually I'll just say that much. I'm in the development stages of a second feature. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you so much for your time, and let's all the best for this one and the next one.
Thank you so much. It was so nice talking to you.